Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode and a new season 5 of Bryce Talk Show. Bryce Talk Show is back, and today we got a lot of stuff to talk about on this Monday. So, today we're going to talk about a lot of things. I want to get some Super Bowl discussions because it's almost been about a month since the Super Bowl games. And I also want to talk about, I got my slot machine working again, my Deal or No Deal slot machine. I also want to discuss my recent bowling trip, which was quite fun, and just overall how mild it's been out here for the weather. And it's pretty much March, so it's only a few days away from spring. So let's get this episode started, and as usual, if you enjoyed it, share this video around because that always helps, and subscribe to the channel for more wonderful stuff. Alright, so today we're going to talk the Super Bowl, and first off, we're going to talk about this one hell of a game between the San Francisco 49ers and Kansas City Chiefs. Now, as most of you already know, we've already had Kansas win last year. So they already played the Eagles, and they've already had their spot, and they played this year for the San Francisco 49ers. And I also want to talk about the Super Bowl weekend. I was with grandma's and dad's house. My grandma's, I stayed over there because I didn't want to watch it over at home. Screw that. So I went over to grandma's and watched this game. Grandma made her buffalo dip. She had this thing that she had, and it was pretty good. We had the thing on. There was a lot of performances, a lot of folks. For example, Post Malone performing America the Beautiful. Marita McIntyre playing the national anthem, which is another thing, and plenty of more performances for the game. Of course, and everybody was out there playing. Now, we started off, and, the 49ers had the ball first, so that would make Kansas City get it at the second half. And the game made it interesting to watch. It kind of got boring later on because it felt like hardly anybody was playing anything. Like, there hadn't been a touchdown in near an hour or anything like that. But by the end of the first half, the 49ers were on a winning streak. They weren't even messing around in the first half. Seems like they were almost like they were on fire for the first round. Like they weren't, they came to play. Then as the second half came around, and that's where things kind of started to turn for the worse from them. But I also want to talk about the halftime show featuring Usher and all the guests. Some, my dad wasn't too intrigued with it, but I thought it was cool to have Usher in there. And we had Alicia Keys there. We've had Lil Jon playing Yeah with Ludacris. And they had roller skates on, which was pretty cool that they did that on the show too, even. Of course, the best show being in 2021 with Snoop and everybody. But for this show, it was a decent watch. But we digress. Now we go over, second half, as I said, and I had a game on, and CBS or whoever I forget who was playing it, but there's a problem with the station. It cut out for 5, 10, 15 minutes, near 20 minutes, and it was cutting out in and out all the time, and it was out a lot of the time in the second half. So I'm like, what's going on here? I'm not sure if anybody noticed that, but we couldn't, I had to get on the radio because there's no TV reception on none of that when the first part of the second half started. But as the game progressed, Kansas City started getting touchdowns, field goals, eventually by the fourth quarter tying it up, which sent it over to overtime. Now, I figured there would be something crazy, but who would have thought we'd have an overtime in a game like this, which took it 20-some minutes to do, to finish it up. And eventually we had Kansas winning at a 25-22 score. And I was still in the bed watching it. I was watching a live feed from Sloppy Joe's bar because I was seeing if there was any nightclubs or any bars that were partying, and watching the live feed from the outside street of the Sloppy Joe's bar in Key West, Florida, because they got an outside entrance too where people really hang out. And people were going crazy once they saw Kansas City win. There was music going on, and it was crazy. Would love to have been in a Florida party like that for the Super Bowl. But, yeah, everybody had their own things to say. Of course, Travis Kelce was all hyped up as usual. That's no shocker there. He was all hyped up and everything, as you know. They had just won back-to-back, you know. Of course, they played the 49ers back in 2020 before the whole fiasco with COVID and everything happened there, but yeah, but it made it for a crazy game, and yes, it was. We ended up watching it, and we'll just have to see what happens during the next season, and see what happens there. Now, I also want to get to the topic of my slot machine, and I do want to discuss that because my slot machine dealer, No Deal, had a problem with the thermometer, and I got that thing back on and working. It's back up and running, and it's, I guess we took the front, and the guy who I called last year to get it come here, and we figured out what we had to do. We had to take that front part out of the machine and back on there, and the monitor was back on, because, like, nobody could know what we were doing. Like, if I had a briefcase bonus or something happens, like, you don't know what we're doing. So that was kind of a crazy thing, because we actually kind of started around December. So I had left, most of you know, I left for Florida on the 24th. And, of course, in my grandma's, they had their own party. People came over for Christmas Eve at night. And, you know, there were little kids in there, and they turned it off. Because we don't want these little ones screwing around with it. We have no idea. They probably would, who knows what they would do. So they turned it off, and, you know, at first I thought nothing of it, but then later on I thought, well, if they do that, I can guarantee something will happen to it, because usually that thing always has something wrong with it. Like, if the power goes out, not always, but there will be a time where something goes wrong with it. That has happened, especially last year. The reels were screwed up, or something was wrong. Nothing would spin. It wouldn't spin at all. There was something that was wrong with that. Very wrong. And then I came back from Florida this year, and then we were going to try to do it. And we turned the machine on, and we realized that the monitor wasn't working. So I'm like, well, this sucks, because then we can't really do it. And then we figured maybe could we turn it off, or because the kids were playing basketball and they hit it or something. I don't know what the whole deal was. Of course, I wasn't there, since I had left to go to Punta Gorda, but I left for Fort Myers and then drove to Punta Gorda, Florida. But none of us had any idea, why it could have just not worked. And then a week later, or 2 weeks later, trying to fix it, then the machine wouldn't spin. And then a few weeks later, then it finally decided that it would start spinning again, but the machine still didn't work when it regarding the monitor and everything. Everything was just screwed up there. And then finally, I think it was last Tuesday, which will be tomorrow, got the thing finally got back up and running. Now, I did actually play it on Friday before I left, to go dinner and go out bowling at Delaware lanes. And it was good. Got total 6 briefcase bonuses. The scatters were really hot, and the scatters are good, and the 7s were hot somewhat, but mainly the scatters were coming up. Some briefcase bonuses were questionable, and some were good. That's just how it always goes. But the important thing is we've got it back up and rolling so that way I can go play, and I'm sure anyone else would go play too. So now that we've got that, I was out there for probably almost an hour playing it on that Saturday or Friday, because I only stayed until 2 that Saturday, or 1:45. But we were there for quite a while playing it. I was anyway. And I also want to talk about my time at Star Lanes and Delaware Lanes. So, my cousin Brady turned 14, and they wanted to go to Mexican. My aunt and all my cousins went. Well, except the oldest 22-year-old Drew. Of course, his girlfriend Haley and them were spending time together. But they still got to come over. But all the boys and I were. We head over to the Senor Antonio's over there, and then after that straight to Delaware Lanes, because we had it set up for 7 o'clock for a lane with 2 games, and it was from like 2 hours, so we were done by 9 o'clock, which was pretty good because we were there for quite a while, and means a lot of fun. And we started. Of course, Brady was going to be the first one to play, but he was screwing around with his shoes, saying that it was too big, or it was tight or something. And it was he needed a size 8, but they didn't have that, and so he was going on with that. So they're like, screw that. So Landon went on and played. I played. Of course, Grandma got to play. Amy. Finally, Brady, and then me again. So, of course, the second game, Brady got to play the first time. Did before everybody else did. We wanted him to be the first person to bowl, especially because it was his birthday. So, and of course, I brought my GoPro, which is why I put that video out on Saturday. So, if you haven't seen that, I'd go watch it. It's quite fun, and I'll put it down below in the description so you can click on it and watch it if you want to. But yeah, it's quite fun, and we were there for 2 hours. Now, Brady, the birthday boy, was doing better this time. He wasn't all that good bowling. Let's see, Grandma was doing not too good, especially the first few times, and then she kind of picked things up, especially between the end of the first game and the second game. Managed to pick up 2 strikes. I think she got a spare. I know I got a spare too, but she did a lot better this time. Amy, not so much. My aunt really didn't do a good. Usually she does a really good job when she's bowling, but this time she didn't even. She was like, "I'm terrible," and I was just like, "What's going on over here?" So she was not doing the best, but we managed to make it good and got a whole lot of good videos out of that, because I figured, most of us are gonna have a lot of us are gonna have a lot of fun tonight, and with everybody taking these pictures, I might add a couple videos with the GoPro with it too. So that's why I did. I got all these videos off the GoPro, which actually I got 20 videos, a total of 20 videos with the GoPro, and they all were pretty interesting for us to watch, and I pretty much thought it was pretty fun to do, and start the Friday and the weekend, start Friday night, and pretty much the whole weekend itself. Now, on our last note, I want to end off by discussing the weather patterns we've been getting. It's pretty nice most of the days, especially February. Has been pretty mild, just like kind of like last year. It goes from cold to warm, cold to warm. For example, Super Bowl weekend was pretty decent. Friday was like somewhere in the 60s, in the 50s on Saturdays, because Grandma and I went hanged out outside, and it was pretty nice. And of course, the Wednesday the 21st was really nice, and days in the 60s. So I spent the time outside because I knew it was going to cool off again. Last Monday was in the 60s. I actually had a bike ride. I actually took my little bike on the road. Now this bike is big enough to have one person steering it and another one will be pedaling it. So that's how that bike is. And I put that video out. So all these videos I'll put down below for y'all to see if you haven't seen it yet. So I decided to put a little short video of the fun little bike ride. And we were there for about a good 15 to 20 minutes or so. And both of us thought it was pretty good. And we also were driving all over the place, and my sister had her own bike, so that way she could go with us. So it was pretty good that she was able to go with us. She went over with us, and we went over to the bike. So all of us went over to go and hang out. Now, and even though it was kind of cloudy, it was still pretty good to at least be out, get out on a bike like that, kind of get a little bike ride for a Monday night. Because I hadn't rode it since, January the 2nd. And we just came back home from Florida, and we just got the bike sometime when we were down in Florida. And my mother, being as crazy as she is, be like, "Hey, why don't we go do a drive test of the bike?" I'm like, "You're crazy. It's near 30 degrees. Are you that dumb? I ain't gonna try to get frozen. Even I don't want to. I'm already back in this dump. I don't want to go back out riding a bike when it's near 30 degrees. Like, screw that. If you want to go do that, fine. But suit yourself." But we did, and it was crazy. But we were riding, I bet you, for a good 15, 20 minutes. And it made for a pretty good little Monday night. Of course, it was cool. We needed to make it at least decent, even though the sun was set, but it was at least in the 60s. So, went out and felt it a little bit. And I said, we might as well go ride because we got nothing else better to do. And then, yesterday was good, too. We had, near 60s, and today we're looking to reach near 70 on this Monday before the cold front comes back in and cools it off again. And but it was crazy Wednesday, actually. Last Wednesday it was crazy. We had all these crazy storms. Most of us were woken up from tornadoes, at least for me, around like 5:15, 5:20. I'd say at least before our phones and everything went off because of the tornado warnings. Now, it said it was going to be over by 5:45, and they extended it to I think 6:15 or something. And of course, the most hit was London. There was like F1 and F2. Even a security camera was able to catch it, which was on video. But so that was kind of interesting there. So, and then it just like rained half the morning, and then just got cool. It was like dropping every hour, like on that last Wednesday. Not to mention how windy it was. Like last Wednesday was super windy. Like last Wednesday, I'm telling you, you want to talk about wind like crazy. we had some wind, especially, and that's why the cold front coming in and making everything cold like it was. So, but yeah, so that's how it's been over the past few days when it comes to weather-wise. Anyway, so that'll end this first episode of season 5 of Bryce Talk Show. As always, I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, you know what to do, baby. Subscribe and share that video around, letting the algorithms know that you like this stuff. And we got a lot coming for you as always, and always stay tuned for season 5 episode 2, which will be coming soon, and of course more other great fun content in the future that I'll end up posting, because you know I always got all this good stuff to put out in the future. So if you like this stuff, then you know what to do, baby. So that's it for Bryce Talk Show. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.